I think about this specifically when it comes to politics and how
Hmm.
broken that is in relation to there being a
Yeah.
money printer. And so the elected representatives of the communities that we live in are actually paid for in a kind of horrible oligopoly sense.
Yeah.
And it's just so obviously corrupt.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
so
100%.
representative voting is not true.
Yeah.
And basically the guys behind the scenes win every single time. And that makes you nihilistic in some ways. And Bitcoin is this incredible reversal on that. But it's like it's to me, leadership is kind of like most important when the person doesn't really want to do it.
Yeah.
They've just led by example.
Yep.
And so when I say like, what does leadership mean to you? It's immediately to me, it's not really leadership in some ways. They're just being themselves. It's like, no, you're the guy for the job. It's like, I don't want the job.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Lead us, please.
Yeah. I would make what would I say? I'd say make the case that like a good kind of starting point is the idea that the leader is going to take the blame and give away the credit, right? The leader is the one that is going to try and organize. It's mostly a way of tapping into people's already their incentives and their values and trying to organize towards a goal. Now, when we look at things like the political system, and this is where you have the issues of things getting split apart. It's almost like splitting apart medium of exchange and store of value. It's going to create some problems. And in the political system, we've given all these people great power, but we've really removed accountability and responsibility. Again, it's almost like playing with somebody else's money. They get all the gains, but there's no risk associated with it too. That is the relationship. That tends to be the trade-off there, is that people are going to willingly abdicate some power or authority to you because it's in their best interest. And if you're successful in that role, then you will get the benefits as well too. But if you're not, you're also held responsible and you face the consequences of that. And it really is being the one, it's the nail willing to be like stood up, right? The one willing to stand up and raise your hand. It means good or bad, it's coming your way. And in terms of like my views on the subject, it really is organizational, it's motivational, it's leading up and down, right? It's showing how to be a good leader and be a good follower is part of it as well too. And like so many things in Bitcoin, good leaders are just providing value to the team, right? If you're in that leadership position, it's because you're providing value to everyone that you're leading, and it's getting us there better, smoother, more productive, right? And you are ultimately in a free market situation. You're only rewarded as a leader for the competency and your ability to perform, right? And you would be held account to that, right? The idea, like I remember like a bit of a weird tangent, but I think it kind of relates. It always gets so frustrated with people when they talk about like how unfair it is that someone like Jeff Bezos has ungodly amounts of money. I'm sure there's some CIA funds and things going through there as well too. And that's fair. That's totally fair. But if we take that example, if there was no sort of government subsidies or tax advantages, or there's just free market system, and we have Amazon running, and the entire world is getting exactly what they need delivered to their door in 24 hours, right? Well, that's one, he's being compensated because he's providing an ungodly amount of value to everyone else, right? It is a reflection of his ability to scale value and help everyone. And then even going to like a true free market and sound money system, if he's retaining billions of dollars of value, that's amazing, because not only did he provide that value voluntarily to people all across the globe, but then he didn't even consume anything on his own behalf. He literally gave the value, and if he has the money, it means he has not consumed any resources or services of his own. And so I very much so kind of view leadership in the same vein, as it's, if you're doing the right job and you're accountable to the people under you and you're giving value to them and helping grow them as well too, then it's the win-win all around, right? But if there has to be that negative repercussion for failure or poor leadership as well too. Otherwise, that sort of a system breaks down and there's nothing but resentment, and it feels like it's all just kind of insider favors. Is that, I know I went on some weird tangents. Does that kind of come across right?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example here of something that really upset me at the time, which was the absolute shit show that was the COVID lockdowns. And there was a politician in Victoria, where I lived at the time, Melbourne. Melbourne had some of the harshest lockdowns in the world. This guy called Daniel Andrews, and he had all these like COVID zero policies, and just the amount of different things that this guy was. He was the leader, right? He was the one calling the shots, and the stuff would go wrong clearly against what he was setting out to do, such as like, there'd be COVID cases coming out of a poorly managed Like they had these things called hotel quarantine, and they'd be taking international travelers and they'd be testing them and sitting them there, and they were paying
too.
They were paying massive contracts to security companies to come and put people there, and it turned out that it was one of his aides' uncles. There was no screening process on the company that was put in charge, and then there was all these stories of these guys that were completely inexperienced in how to deal with any kind of disease transmission. Blah blah blah. This guy ends up in a government-funded court case for this, supposed like cock up.
Yep.
Putting aside what COVID even is, right? But
yeah.
This guy was able to get up in this system and go, I can't remember who sent the email to the company that hired them. It's like, okay, so there's been this inside job. So, okay, you can't remember. Well, let's get in your chief of staff. Let's get in your head of health. And all these people just stood up and said, I swear by the Bible to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. And they all go, I just cannot recall. I cannot recall. Yeah. And it was like, this can't be serious. Like, this is an absolute fucking joke. And putting aside the effectiveness of the policies, the need of the policies in the first place, all the drama on the media, it's like you said you were going to do something, you didn't do it, and now you can't remember if you did it or not.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. And they walk off. And I think one lady resigned. He kept his job, and he's now in some cushy, government-funded,
golden parachute
package
somewhere. Yeah.
And the idea of accountability, it's just nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's making the hairs on the back of my neck, Scott. It's just like, fuck you, mate. That's a ridiculous way to behave and think it's okay. And, well, at least that's my view. So again, it's politics, which is perhaps not the point here, but the leadership was completely unaccountable. And that frustrates the hell out of me. And I think, to your point, leadership is about accountability. That that feedback loop has to be there.